Mercedes-Benz România a aniversat anul acesta un deceniu de parteneriat cu Transylvania International Film Festival. Unii spun că, în cei 10 ani de adus vedete pe covorul roșu, în mașinile oficiale s-au întâmplat multe chestii interesante. Tot ce știm noi este ceea ce s-a întâmplat anul acesta în mașina oficială, pe care noi am folosit-o pentru a face 10 interviuri scurte pe fugă cu 10 oameni implicați în TIFF 2016.
So Dean,
Actually, it's Bentley. And,
It's Bentley.
Yeah, so I feel a little bit uncomfortable about being in a Mercedes with a name like that.
yes, yes.
I hope I'm not betraying my parents' aspirations.
I'm really happy to see that you seem to be sort of a petrol head.
Me? Actually, I ride a bike mostly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What makes you think I'm a petrol head?
Yeah, with you knowing so much about cars, I mean, okay, your name Bentley. So,
No,
yeah.
I actually did really disappoint my parents.
Really?
That I've only had 2 cars in my entire life and about 16 years without one altogether. So I do get around on bicycle an awful lot. Yeah.
I understand.
I'm sorry.
Okay then.
This is a great bike. This is a great bike town, I think.
I understand. So
Yeah.
basically cars mean nothing to you.
Oh no, they're lovely. I mean, like, if you were to, as I expect, give
Yes.
me this car at the end of this interview, I'll
Yes.
accept.
You'll accept.
Yeah.
Okay. What brought you to Romania?
The film festival, the Transylvanian International Film Festival.
What's your story with TIFF?
I'm one of the directors.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm a co-director of a film called Tanna, which is in competition here.
Yeah.
And we had our premiere here last night, which was fabulous.
How did it go?
Look, it was one of those packed audiences where you could feel the love.
Really?
And it was a great Q&A. Like, everyone was obviously very interested to the point where I think we were a bit naughty and we pushed the other film back. So,
Really?
So it was like, the best possible response you could hope for, I think.
Excellent. So
Especially given that, it's culturally, extremely different. Like,
it is.
I mean, we're talking the other side of the world. It's not because it's not from Australia. We filmed it in Vanuatu. In fact, it's the first film ever made out of Vanuatu. And
Really?
It was and it was with a very traditional tribe there on an island called Tanna, in fact. And when I say traditional, like, they still hunt with bows and arrows and
Really?
and wear grass skirts and penis sheaths. That's the
Amazing.
men, obviously.
Amazing.
And when we went there to propose a film idea, they hadn't actually seen a film before, and so
Amazing. That's amazing.
this film that they're in was in fact the first film that they ever saw. But they acted in it. It's and it's their story. We worked the story up with them. It was a very collaborative process. And the strange thing is that even though it is culturally radically different there, it seems to resonate with audiences as far as here is in Romania.
That's amazing. I'm in awe. How long did it take to prepare the movie and to film?
Yeah, it was an interesting process. It was very strange for feature filmmaking in that we started, when we went there, we didn't have an idea. And but we said, we think it needs about 7 months, living, in the tribe. So that's what I did with my family. So I went over with my wife and 2 small kids, and my co-director would fly in and fly out, when there was a big scene.
Yeah.
But we just spent the first couple of months just talking. So we just talked about absolutely everything, ranging from origin stories and myths through to how you become a man or a woman, and how you conduct an affair. Really intimate stuff. Like, and it was both ways. Like, I would tell embarrassing stories about my life and they theirs, and it was one of those fantastic experiences that you hope for as a filmmaker, I think. And out of that, we started to work up a story. It ended up being one based on a true event that happened 20 years ago that changed the course of their culture. So
I'm baffled. That's such an amazing story. So
it gets even better. It's the reason we went there in the first place is because the land is spectacular. It's only about 50 kilometers by 20 kilometers, so a tiny island. But on one edge of it is this magnificent active volcano, which is one of the stars of the film, in fact. And every tropical environment you could conceive of, from the forest, like black sand beaches, white sand beaches, coral, and these extraordinary people who look gorgeous and fit and full of storytelling ability.
I assume you got there by boat, didn't you?
No, actually, they do have flights there. So,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For an
How
Australian,
far is it?
well, for an Australian, from my hometown of Melbourne,
Yeah.
you could start off in the beginning of the day, and by carver time, which is a narcotic drink that they drink over there,
okay,
which is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you could be there in the village,
really,
having carver with the chiefs.
So basically, they have an airport.
Yeah, so there's like an international airport in the capital island, which is called Efate.
Yeah.
And you have to get a connecting flight, down to Tanna.
Tanna.
Yeah.
Okay. So they have an airport in Tanna, but they haven't seen movies.
No, the whole island.
The whole
has.
island.
Yeah, definitely.
But this
particular
tribe,
group of people, like they know about the outside world. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like some of them even have mobile phones. So yeah, they would know. They know where there's a conflict going on. They understand international relations. Like they're onto it. But they've made this really deliberate choice to follow the ways of their ancestors to keep that up because. And I think they're right. They think it's better for them. So in spite of this, tide of westernization that has engulfed the rest of the world. Yeah. There's this like tiny little outpost of which they're one of them who are just saying, no, we don't buy it. We don't buy this like worship of the money economy. We don't buy like having to work a 12-hour day and then die. It's not necessarily good for you. And
how many people are in this tribe?
In this village, there'd only be a couple of hundred people in the village. Yeah, but there's a few tribes in the highlands there. Yeah. That have decided to do this, keep their traditional ways. But all up on the island, there'd be about 30,000 people on the island.
I understand. Cool. So I'm fascinated by this story. Tell me another story.
My background with my co-director Martin Butler is in documentaries.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the very first fictional film that we've done. The documentaries in the past include a story about the very last contact between a group of Aboriginal women and children and the outside world, which only happened as recently as 1964. And so they were wandering around the desert, in the western desert of Australia, completely unaware that their country had been invaded 200 years ago, and completely unaware that the government of the time were planning to test missiles in their land. And so what the government did is they thought, well, we better send out some patrol officers to make sure that the land is clear and that there's actually no people out there. And lo and behold, they come across these people. But one of the patrol officers was an amateur filmmaker and had a 16mm camera with him, and he filmed that moment of contact. He filmed the moment where you go from this like complete ignorance of cars and modern technology, Mercedes-Benzes, and white people to actually confronting that for the first time. So it's one of those, and doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. This footage, because it's such a recent happening. And what was really incredible about the film is the people who were in that footage were still alive, like they were in their 60s. So there's this woman who was 17 at the time, Yuili, and she took us back to that location in the desert and described, in great detail, like what was going on in her head. So it was like the film's told from their point of view about what it is like to come across another culture. What it would be like, us, describing to me what it was like when, say, the aliens from planet Neptune came to visit you last week. That's what it would have been like. And so, and she's like one of the best storytellers I've ever worked with. She would,
I'm baffled.
Yeah, I was like, they love cars too. By the way, they like when they first saw a car, it was great. Like she gets. I filmed her I actually asked Julie can you describe like the moment that you first saw a four-wheel drive?
Yeah.
And where did it happen? And she just pointed to a tree, up there, the exact same tree that she saw it from, and she immediately walked up there and sort of like crouched behind it exactly as she did 40 years ago, and described her feelings. So and she talked about with her little sister about what she thought it was going on, and she thought it was some kind of cannibal animal, like a rock that moved with had big animal eyes, which were the headlights, of course, and that these creatures were coming to eat them. So at first they just ran for their lives. Eventually, when they finally did come in, because they could easily avoid the patrol officers, because they knew the desert obviously better than anyone else. Even though they had cars, they could easily get away from them. But in the end, they were enticed to come in through some Aboriginal trackers who spoke their language. Yeah, and they were scared, a little bit scared, and but also curious of the technology. But within a day, they were wanting to have a go of the car. They wanted to get in. They wanted to drive it. They weren't scared at all. It's just like,
wonderful invention.
That's right. They were saying that I can see how this thing is really useful.
Yeah. What do you think of Cluj?
Look, it's a great town. It's beautiful, of course, and there's nothing like this in Australia. It's such an ancient, European town. I mean, Australia's ancient, of course. There's more than 60,000 years of history there.
Exactly.
But not in the form of these fantastic monuments. But really, what I love about this place is the people. It's just it's just been.
We're friendly. Yeah, we have this. We've seen better, but we're friendly as well.
No, from the moment I arrived at the airport, I was met by a young lady who described herself as my angel.
Really? Yeah, yes. She's one of the 400 volunteers.
Yeah, so who's going to complain about that? Having your own personal angel.
Of course.
It seems like, well, if there's 400, it's a city of angels.
A city of angels, right. Yeah.